Hey, welcome back everyone. We are now getting closer to the middle of April, which is very important because that signals that we are not only getting very close to the very beginning stages of filming for the Ahsoka Tano series, which by the way begins in just 1 week's time. We also have a lot of things that are happening with the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series, with the official full-length trailer all set and ready to debut by early May of this year. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, everything that's happening between, of course, George, John, and Dave is that they are trying to make sure that the Star Wars fans are going to be getting everything that they want to see on either the big screen or at home on Disney Plus when it comes to mixing together both Star Wars Legends and the Disney canon material, and exactly how they're going to be able to balance all of this out at once. Now, when you look at everything like this, we have a lot of things that are happening in play here. We have a lot of things happening between all of the Legends characters coming into the equation with the Star Wars universe and how they're going to be able to interact with some of the already existing legacy characters like Luke Skywalker, Yoda, and other characters out there like Anakin and more. That's really going to be a big deal for the franchise across different eras. Now, with that being said and all, we already know that Disney CEO Bob Chapek, at the end of the day, is really the guy that is allowing all of this to happen, that is allowing George, John, and Dave to do their thing with the overall Star Wars universe, and allowing them to bring back all of these fan-favorite characters that we have known for so very long. And I think that's one thing to really keep in mind here, is that Bob Chapek really wants to create this legacy for himself. He wants to create a legacy for himself, not just with Star Wars, but also with Marvel. And so far, you know, he's doing a pretty solid job with the Star Wars universe. The Book of Boba Fett, I will admit, was a minor speed bump, but everything looking ahead looks very positive. So now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are currently focused on their new Star Wars TV shows and movies, it's described that currently creators Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are actively involved in developing new, unannounced shows that will be unveiled at Star Wars Celebration this year. Now, it's described, however, that Disney CEO Bob Chapek recently got involved in an interview where he was able to respond to the cancellation of one of the big Star Wars TV shows for Disney Plus that was in the works for a very long time. Now, it's described that Chapek went on to state, "The main reason why we needed to cancel Rangers of the New Republic has to do with many factors that come into play. The biggest reason had to do with the fact that we were going to tell new stories of Luke Skywalker, Leia, and even Cara Dune in the series that we eventually just wanted to split up into different segments. Of course, with Miss Carano being let go from the franchise at that time, only made development of the story even harder and more difficult to work with, and both John and Dave needed more time to work on The Mandalorian Season 3 and the Ahsoka Tano show for Disney Plus. Now, this series was going to be something truly remarkable to the fans. I can assure everyone that. We were going to do incredible things with the Skywalkers and with the story of Cara Dune and her big connection to the Skywalker family through using Leia." So let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, obviously Bob Chapek is making it clear that Rangers of the New Republic was not going to be a show strictly about the rebellion or the soldiers, which he'll get into that more in just a second, but it had a lot to do with characters like Luke, Leia, and other fan-favorite characters, you know, legacy characters in a sense. The droids, I mean, how can we forget about the droids? They were also going to be heavily involved. I think that when you look at it in that light, this really was going to be an attempted direct sequel to Return of the Jedi, given that it was going to take place under 1 year, of course, you know, between the events of Episode 6 and what we saw in The Mandalorian Season 1. It was going to take place in between that, and that kind of gives you a better idea of exactly what the lives are going to be like after the events of the Battle of Endor. That, to me, I think is truly, you know, inspiring by Disney to actually explore that time period. But moving on, of course, he goes on to say that Rangers was also going to be a project that we had in mind to set up the events that were done in the popular books, such as the Battle of Jakku, and even showing fans the official downfall of the Empire once and for all. This was not going to be a show strictly about the rebellion or the soldiers that stand for freedom, but about all of the fan-favorite characters and what their lives were like after the events of Return of the Jedi. This series is currently being split up into multiple segments that will be used in different shows so that we can tell the highlights of this project that eventually got cancelled. We have been trying to find ways to actually save this show for the longest time, to the point where we just didn't know what else to do. However, we still have some conversations going on for reconstructing this series into something else that the fans will also appreciate. So let me just stop right here for a second also, is that we also know that Rangers of the New Republic as a show, they wanted to actually redevelop the series. They wanted to actually pretty much start from the ground up, start from scratch and make it into something completely different. We talked about this for a long time, of how Rangers was going to get a brand new title, it was going to have a bit of a different plot involved, but it was still going to be Rangers of the New Republic in spirit. And that also eventually fell apart, and they're still trying to find ways to reconstruct that show, as Bob Chapek says. The only problem with that is that you have a lot of things happening already. They're already taking highlights from that series and putting those highlights into other Star Wars TV shows, so keep that in mind there. And that's a good thing. I think that's probably the best way to salvage many elements from the series and to kind of respect of what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni dedicated their lives to. I mean, they spent a lot of time on developing Rangers and really kind of, brainstorming ideas for the series, and how all of that just went to waste. It took them roughly a year and a half to really create this overall structure of the story. But I digress. So he goes on to say that, and it's a very serious discussion that we have every day. It's our job to make sure that the best parts of Rangers becomes one with other Star Wars shows that we have in the pipeline in order to accomplish our goals, to achieving what both Favreau and Filoni had created with these series months ago. It's also my best intention to make it right to the fans by showing you what we wanted to do with those characters in other Star Wars shows that will take place in this post-Episode 6 era. I hope that all fans can understand that we are trying our best with making this universe as wide as possible, that will cater to all types of Star Wars fans for the most part. So Bob Chapek obviously is making it clear that they are going to be using the highlights of Rangers and throwing them into other shows. He is admitting the fact that this series, ultimately met its demise because of, number one, they had to actually make room for John and Dave to work on other Star Wars shows, and another thing had to do with the fact that Gina Carano was fired, and how her character Cara Dune was so embedded with the main legacy characters, such as Leia, and yes, even of course, other characters that have been associated with the original trilogy. They were really going to try to make it like that, making Rangers a true direct sequel to Return of the Jedi. And that, to me, I think would have been pretty interesting to see, to say the least. I think that given that they are splitting the scenes up, or the big highlights, if you will, of the show, and throwing them into other Mandoverse-related TV series, that's a very good strategy on Disney's part, without a doubt. So overall, guys, let me know what you think about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.